I'm feeling it. I am feeling it.
So, the Saskatchewan Roughriders, who scored only 4 Rouges all last season, Jack.
The Stampeders are over the hump and back on top. 2018 Grey Cup champions.
Yeah, man, I eat chalk for breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Here's a 50 to the 40, down near the 20. He's going to score! Touchdown! A chance to win! Will they get it? Yes, they will! Unbelievable! Oh, my goodness!
Whew! Muy caliente.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to The Red, the White, and the Rouge. This is episode 15, previewing week 15, and we're back after a very brief absence. We kind of took our own bye week, because we're very busy, aren't we? Anyway.
No, not at all.
Yeah. Well, as always, John Hewish, at John Hewish on Twitter, is with me. John, how are you?
Pretty good, man. Pretty sore from a workout this morning, but, you know, it's all about the grind.
It's all about the grind. I told you, you should have stretched. Anyway, I'm obviously Rob, at Rob McSports on Twitter, and today I did the intro. Switching it up. You know, kind of a fresh take.
I lost the privilege to do it after messing up the intro the first time.
Yes, I kind of took over. Well, it's like Jonathan Jennings taking over Dominique Davis's job, but we'll get to all that later. First of all, this is a quick reminder that if you are listening to us on Google Play, iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, subscribe, or at the very least, give us a review. Tell us if
to SoundCloud blog. Submit your SoundCloud podcast feed for other distribution. I'm
going to thank my Google Home for doing that for me. And anyway, I think we are going to start off with the review. Lonas, please play la music.
I told you. What did I tell you? Didn't I tell you? 'Cause I told you. Mm-hmm.
So week 14. I know you literally did everything in your power to not go to the Lions game last week, or even watch it for that matter. You just pretended like they weren't playing, basically.
The Lions were dead to me until this week. Just
the fact that you said they might still make the playoffs with the crossover just makes me cringe so hard.
If it happens,
that's
I
even
will.
A possibility.
You know, people say the CFL is like a minor league or a second-tier league. If the Lions do make it, they are correct. That's the reality of the situation.
Oh, God. Yeah, no. But last Friday, yeah, they played Friday night. I actually sat down and watched that game from start to finish, and I was not disappointed. That was the most complete game of football I have seen BC play in I don't know how long. That they weren't just like, oh, we're just like steamrolling the Red Blacks. It was like, no, like the offensive line was actually doing their thing. They're getting their blocks. Brandon Rutley had over 100 yards. They were protecting Mike Riley. It was amazing to see that. I didn't even think that they were capable of that. And yes, I know it's the Ottawa Red Blacks, but still, when they beat Toronto, that was still a fucking mess, and they won on a walk-off Rouge. So that's barely a win in my mind. But fuck, that was the most complete game they've played in at least a year.
Oh,
wow.
Easily. And all it took was Jonathan Jennings being the opposing quarterback. I think that's what's so amazing about it.
Yeah, that helped. He threw 2 interceptions pretty quickly. But also, the Lions made it a half of football without giving up a sack. So, took them till week 14. Took us till like week 12 to get the audio right. So at least, you know, we're ahead of them. But
it did. I don't want to jinx it.
Yeah, no real surprises here. Obviously, Brian Burnham was the main contributor for the Lions. Brandon Rutley looked good on the ground. We might see John White back this week. I hope not, honestly. Rutley's looked good, and this is, you know, a train that we've been on since before the season.
Yeah. That
it should have been like a 50-50 split at the least.
At the very least.
But, yeah, no, I digress. That's enough about BC. They have to face them again this week, so they would be in a playoff position if they won. If BC wins on Saturday, they will be in a playoff spot. Yuck. Wow, that's weird.
Yes, yuck.
Hamilton-Calgary, that was a game that was closer than I expected. I did have Calgary minus the points in that one. Dane Evans threw for 360 yards and a touchdown. The Hamilton backfield was a fucking... Can we just shoot their whole backfield into the sun?
I honestly think they should run into a single back quarterback shotgun backfield. Like, why even line up a running back anymore? Or maybe run like a right guard back beside the quarterback, just so he can block. It's honestly, every running back they have gets hurt. Anytime they have anything going, they get hurt. This has been a year where Hamilton has shown that they could be a Grey Cup favorite, potentially a Grey Cup champion early in the year, and everything has gone wrong. Yet they're still winning games despite Dane Evans' pure mediocrity.
Well, it's the fact that, like, Jackson Bennett comes out and has a good week their last game and shows that, like, okay, this is kind of like, this guy looks like a running back, and quite frankly, he's built like one too.
Yes.
And their solution to that is, no, let's give Anthony Coombs, Braylon Addison, and Brandon Banks, three of like the skinniest and fastest players on our team, a chance to play running back this week. And the guy who ran for, whatever was it, over 60, almost 100 yards last game? That guy, he gets 3 carries. He gets 3. Like, I hate everything that this team chooses to be. And they do choose to be this way.
They do choose to be this way. It's funny because in general, I really like the Hamilton coach, Orlando. Why am I forgetting? His last name is tricky. I won't pronounce it properly anyway. His first name is Orlando. But you're absolutely right. It's very strange. However, I will argue I do like Braylon Addison as a running back. I think he plays quite well there, and I really do like the kind of inventiveness of having a wide receiver take snaps at running back. However, Brandon Banks needs open field space to run the ball, and Anthony Coombs is... he's definitely not a power back, not someone you want to run between the tackles, so I think that Bennett is definitely the better person to be starting as an every down back.
I agree with the take about Addison being able he could be taking carries, because honestly when he was taking carries I was like, yeah, that looks like a running back. Banks, the only situation where he should be getting a carry is if it's like an end around or something, or
reverse, exactly. I 100% agree.
So reverse, but with they tried to let him throw a pass too. That was when he fumbled. I don't know again if that's the worst idea if you're trying to run a wildcat with him back there. Or like a flea flicker, he can throw, but again, he shouldn't be running like a fucking halfback dive play or something. That's just such a bad idea.
It is.
Oh, okay.
And also,
I'm so glad they lost.
Memo to CFL coaches, like, it's like fetch. Stop trying to make the Wildcat happen in the CFL. Like, unless you have Strevler and are going to run it with him as basically a running back, which is really what Winnipeg's been doing for a few weeks now, stop trying to make the Wildcat happen. It's not that effective.
I think it's fun. I do think it's more effective in the NFL, though.
It is definitely more effective in the NFL.
Yeah. So Calgary, solid performance all around there. Obviously, their defense gave up more yards than they're used to, but held the Tiger Cats to under 20 points and had an impressive interception. Eric Rogers, Reggie Begelton carried the team with Bo Levi Mitchell, and Kadeem Carey was a solid contributor. So that's enough about that game. Let's get on to the fact that Cody Fajardo managed to take out Vernon Adams Jr. on Saturday. How'd you feel about that?
We actually, we kind of had a text back and forth about this, about who is the better young quarterback, Vernon Adams Jr. or Cody Fajardo. I also had the discussion with me Padre, and we kind of talked about it. Vernon Adams Jr. is really interesting because he is so athletic, and I think he is more naturally athletic than Cody Fajardo, but Cody Fajardo is just so much better at holding on to the ball, and he protects it so much better that as of right now, I have to say Fajardo is probably better than Vernon Adams, but it is very close. Yeah. And I think Vernon Adams Jr. has definitely an elite CFL ceiling. While I think Fajardo has that as well, I think Vernon Adams just is more so the full package. Anyway, it was a very close game. Fajardo played well. Vernon Adams Jr. played well. Two very good young stud quarterbacks, and two people that the CFL should be really excited about.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I bet on Montreal to win this game, but like I think it was because how much they were, how big of underdogs they were. I think they were 5.5-point dogs, and I just thought that was way too much. That was spread to give them, so they were like over plus 200 to win. So I thought that there was a lot of value in that number, but no, you're right. Fajardo is a little bit better, but Adams, man, they're both so young that it's like there's still plenty of time to see where they'll go when they reach their primes, if you will. So yeah, let's move on to this week 15. First game of the week is Calgary. They are traveling to Toronto, and they are 7-point road favorites. Are we playing BLM? Are we playing McLeod Bethel Thompson in a situation again where he will likely be throwing the ball a lot?
So normally I would say McLeod Bethel Thompson is a good play here for the reasons you just stipulated. He will be throwing basically all game. However, I don't think this Calgary defense is a defense that you want to throw against all game. I really don't. Their corners are very good, and their defensive line is good enough that they will get pressure on him. So personally, I'm going to pass on McLeod Bethel Thompson. I don't know. How do you feel?
Yeah, no, same deal. Like they're just so, even though they did give up 360 passing yards to Dane Evans, it's like he didn't get points from much else, and only threw for 1 touchdown, threw for an interception. They didn't let him run. So I like Bo Levi at 94. Again, Bo Levi Mitchell is a safe option. He's not going to get you 30 points, but it's like I want to play a lot of Calgary players this week, and that's going to show when I read out my lineup. So pairing him with his receivers and even Kadeem Carey, if Don Jackson remains out, is a good idea. And that actually brings us to the Don Jackson situation, which is he going to play? We don't know. He's questionable right now. Obviously, if he does play and is listed ahead of Kadeem Carey on the depth chart, then I would prefer Jackson. Obviously, we know Toronto's been the worst team against the run all season. So if Don Jackson does sit out, I'm all over Kadeem Carey at 6,700. As for the Toronto running backs, I'm not going to go back to the well on James Wilder, especially with a price bump at 78. And Chris Rainey just isn't getting enough offensive touches with Wilder on the field to be worth 5,700 in my opinion.
I agree with that.
Okay.
How do you feel about the receivers? Or with Bethel Thompson, probably no one on the Toronto receiving core interest you?
I want to go back to Rodney Smith. And his price went up a little bit. He had 7 targets. He caught a touchdown. And it's like, it's a price thing where I know the targets are going to be there. But my favorite receiver in this game, if Reggie Begelton sits, is obviously going to be Eric Rogers. That's a no-brainer. Begelton missed practice today. We don't know if he's actually going to play or not. But if he sits, it's a plug-and-play situation for Rogers, honestly. I also like Josh Huff, former Philadelphia Eagle. He had 9 targets last week. He had 6 the week before that. So obviously Bo Levi Mitchell's trying to find him when he can. Got some kick return yards. So if he's getting those kind of looks, then at 4,200 against this Toronto secondary, I like that option. I like it quite a bit, actually.
That's I was unaware of those stats. That actually makes me even more interested.
5,200 for the Calgary D. I mean, if you can afford it, I'm not going to tell anybody not to play the Calgary defense because they're getting close to 10 points, 15 just about every week. And again, even if this game does end up being closer than expected or whatever, I still think they'll be able to put up, possibly a defense special team touchdown. Definitely some interceptions against McLeod Bethel Thompson. So keep an eye on them. But obviously no interest in the Argos D for either of us. So
nope, not this week.
Shuffle on into Edmonton with Trevor Harris. He's 9,100. It's too cheap. He's questionable with what was his injury? I can't recall it off the top of my head, but he did have an injury heading into this week, so he may not start. Again, keep an eye on that. But if he does, 9,100 against Hamilton. Like, he's put up 14 points in the last 2 weeks, but both those games were against Calgary, and we know he's shit against Calgary. But against Hamilton, Is this honestly, could this be the lock of the week if he's healthy?
Maybe for you, it would not be for me. However, if he is not playing, you need to put money on Hamilton.
And the spread's only 2.5 right now. So
yeah,
you could take the chance on that.
You could take the chance on it. That's absolutely true. You could just take the chance on it, but I don't see... Edmonton's on, what, a 3-game losing streak, and then if Andrew Harris is out, ooh. I mean, no, is that the right Harris? No, it is not. Trevor Harris. Jesus Christ. If Trevor Harris is out, that's even worse for them. I think their backup quarterback, Kilgore, I haven't seen him play much this year, and when I did, it was not, like, he definitely wasn't flashy.
He's the only player on DraftKings who's worth a player photo, though, so...
Oh,
I don't know why. Yeah, no, that's typical CFL, but no I'm not gonna be I don't want to talk about Hamilton's running backs. I'm not going to say anything about it. I'm not playing CJ Gable. Christian Jones at 4,100. Yeah, he'll get you like 7 or 8 points returning kicks, and he has the upside to return one for a touchdown. Pair him with Edmonton's D. I honestly don't mind their D at 4,100. I guess that's just like a correlation play.
Yeah, I actually do like that play. That was...
Yeah. What the kids would call a 200 IQ suggestion.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so who do you like at receiver?
Well, for Hamilton, I think the obvious choice is Addison and Banks. Both of them, basically, you play Banks if you can afford him. If you don't want to pay for him, play Addison. Both are very good. I'm personally not going to be playing either this week, but clearly Dane Evans is doing enough to get the ball into their hands, and the Hamilton offensive coordinator is clearly making it that even if Dane Evans can't get the ball into their hands, they're going to try to get the ball into their hands in other ways, whether it be through the run game, all that kind of stuff. So either way, you will get value there.
Mm-hmm. Same story for me. I mean, if you can fit Banks in at 10.5, that's fine. 95 is a lot for Braylon Addison, but again, he's been worth it over the last month. Greg Ellingson, no.
Eventually
DeVar's
that
Daniels
will
at
end.
83. Yeah, no, that does have to end, so that's why if I'm picking between Addison or Burnham, spoiler alert for me, it's Brian Burnham.
I'm in the same boat.
Good. DeVar's Daniels is 8,300. If Harris is playing and you want to pair him with him, I honestly don't hate that at 83. Again, obviously his last 2 games have been bad because Harris's last 2 games have been bad. There's a correlation there.
Mm-hmm.
But no other receivers, honestly, in this game that really catch my eye. We did just talk about Edmonton's defense being an option, so that about does it for this game. Is there anybody we missed?
No, I will say that if Trevor Harris doesn't play, maybe that makes Gable more interesting because they might try to run the ball a bit more. But even still, Gable's kind of expensive to have to pay up for.
Okie dokie. Third game of the week is Winnipeg there at Montreal. Montreal are 2.5-point dogs at home, and the total in this one is 47. Obviously, Andrew Harris is back. We'll get to that in a sec. Vernon Adams Jr., 10,600. Is that price tag worth it against this Winnipeg defense?
It is not worth it against this Winnipeg defense. Against basically any other defense in the league, you could argue it. I don't think it's worth it against this Winnipeg D. They've been so good at getting sacks. Jefferson has been so good on the end, knocking down passes, getting sacks. I just feel like he will be well contained this week.
What about Strevler at 9,200?
Now, this is a really interesting one. There's kind of 2 ways to look at this, and I'm kind of undecided, so I'm just going to give you the info I know and let the people listening decide. So, with Andrew Harris, Strevler will probably run the ball less, right? However,
yes,
he may throw the ball more, and Andrew Harris is an excellent target to throw to. There's also the option for them to use option plays with Harris, who's a much scarier person to do an option with and someone that the defense is forced to key on more. Also to point out that I assume with all the steroids Harris is taking that he probably has Hulk-like anger right now because he hasn't played in a few weeks. But yeah, I think it's a really tricky situation. I think the price is right for Streveler if you do want to go with a low price QB. So I don't think you could really go wrong, but if you are playing Streveler, I think you also have to play Harris.
Man, this is tough. So, in the last 2 weeks, with Andrew Harris out of the lineup, Johnny Augustine, his backup, has been targeted 7 times. He caught one of those passes for like a 55-yard touchdown, which honestly just skews whatever tiny sample size data we may have. In Andrew Harris's last 2 games, he has been targeted twice for passes. And that is why we like Andrew Harris, because he catches a lot of passes from Matt Nichols. Am I still going to play him at 9,800? Yeah. Do I feel super comfortable with that? I just, again, it's a floor thing, right? You look at everybody else that's in that price range. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that.
Yeah, so he'll likely be all right, but like Chris Streveler, he's almost a shoo-in to rushing for a touchdown. Andrew Harris doesn't have a rushing touchdown this season yet, does he?
He must have at least one, but if not, it's because of Chris Streveler.
I mean, he's the rest of the season, other than that, he's been playing with Nichols. So I'm going to quickly look that up while you talk about the wide receiver situation here. If there's anybody that catches your eye.
So in terms of the Winnipeg receivers, I think it's a full pass. Lucky Whitehead is injured and at the very least is questionable for this game. I don't have the latest up-to-date info on that. So I will not be playing him, and he's basically the only one I'm interested in on the Winnipeg receiving core because Streveler does run the ball so much. He's not an amazing passer, so the passing game would not be something I would really focus in on. However, on Montreal, there are some very good options. I think Posey, once again, is a great option. He's 7,100, and he had 6 targets last week. So that's very solid. Quan Bray is also a really good option. Really, it's kind of a 2-receiver system in Montreal. There's Quan Bray, there's Davier Posey. Those 2 are basically the same level of skill. I personally like Posey more because he is cheaper and is getting the lion's share of the targets. Another player to actually keep in mind as well, though, is Stanback. Now, I feel like a lot of people would be interested in Stanback because CJ Gable and all that kind of stuff. However, there's kind of 2 things pushing against Stanback. One is really 3 things. One is he's 8,100, which isn't expensive, but also isn't ideal for the situation he's in because he's playing the Winnipeg defense, which is very good. They've got an excellent D-line. On top of that, Stanback and Jeremiah Johnson have been splitting carries. Vernon Adams Jr. is a quarterback that can run and do short yardage. So for all those reasons, I probably pass on Stanback, but it's not... I pass on Stanback. I don't even think it would be a smart play maybe as a low-key option. Not someone I would play this week. I think there's better running backs available and very much cheaper running backs available. Of course, every time I say that about Stanback, he has an amazing week, but we'll see. Do you have an update on the Harris touchdowns?
3. He's rushed for 3, but he's also caught 3. So It's a split, but still, I don't know why I didn't. All my images of Andrew Harris are just catching touchdowns, catching passes, not doing a whole lot of running. Anyway, you basically touched on literally anybody I would have any interest whatsoever in this game. So
you are welcome.
Not a whole lot to like. Yeah. All right, time for the dumpster fire. That is the last game of this week, which is BC. They're at Ottawa. Total in this one's 47.5, and the Lions are 3-point road favorites. Obviously, we're not going to play Jonathan Jennings, but Mike Riley, 9,600. What? Is this? Oh man, I wanted to play him. No.
Yeah.
Don't do that. If you're thinking
turn
about
off the podcast if you were thinking of playing him. Just stop. It's too late for you. We're 15 weeks in. You should know this by now.
9,600 for Riley. Okay, I'll phrase it like this. Why do we not go back to that?
Well, that's the thing. There's no reason not to. I know the lines have been inconsistent, but they have a new offensive line coach who seems to have fit in some chemistry there with the offensive linemen. They're making less stupid mental mistakes. I think there's a lot to like there.
I agree. Yep. No, 96 for sure. That's honestly probably one of the best value plays on the board. Let's talk running backs. In the last 2 weeks, Moses Madu has been targeted for passes 24 times because Jonathan Jennings doesn't know how to pass the ball more than like 10 yards unless he's throwing it up. So I really like that price for Madu. Obviously, he's barely a producer on the ground, but with the way he's used in this offense with Jennings, I love him at 6,300. I love that price tag. Love it.
Once again, I was unaware of those target statistics. That makes him a lot more interesting to me as well. However, I already have my lineup pushed in for the week, so I will... this is a smart play by John. Way to do your research.
Thank you. Okay, so obviously we're not playing John White if he's coming back off an injury, even at 70. I mean, are we playing John White at 7,500 if he's back?
And let me add, it would be a big mistake from Devon Claybrooks to have Brandon Rutley play the game he played last week and then go back to John White. That would be a big, big, big mistake.
Yeah, but I mean, this is a guy who gets up every day, puts his hat on halfway sideways, halfway forwards, and thinks, yeah, this is the move.
I know. Honestly, I don't blame any of how this season has gone on Devon Claybrooks. He seems like a smart football guy. I actually blame it on the assistant coaches he brought in who have absolutely no experience, or generally, or most of them don't, and as well on Ed Hervey for not making some very obvious re-signings that he needed to make. So I don't blame Devon for it, but if he does start White as the starting running back this week, I will be pretty disappointed because Rutley was so good last week. We've been pumping his tires all year. I don't think it makes any sense to put White in after an injury. Give him as much time as he could possibly ever want to recover because Rutley is hot right now.
Yeah, at 71, if he's starting, I like that. This is a great matchup against Ottawa. Again, he should go over 100, should be more effective in the passing game too. Didn't catch all his targets last week, a few drops. So, let's talk wideouts in this game. Brad Sinopoly's probably going to be back, which kind of erases the majority of value in this Ottawa receiving core. Obviously, Brian Burnham is the best option on the board for the Lions. He has been so consistent the last few weeks, and he's literally just been the epitome of consistent for the last couple months. I like Burnham at 9,400.
I'm going to make a U.S. Political reference here. He's like what the Democrats are trying to push Joe Biden as. And that old, consistent Joe, he'll end all the problems the U.S. is having. This is Brian Burnham, old, consistent Brian. He's always there to make a catch. That is Brian Burnham. He's been so good, just consistent, solid. If Brian Burnham was running for president, he might win.
He might. He's a solid dude.
Yeah.
In the last 3 weeks, Dominique Rhymes has scored 18 or more fantasy points. Now, last week, on the last play of the game, he caught a pass that was worth 8 points, I think. One pass was worth 8 points. He didn't catch a touchdown. So without that, his line looks very, very different. Are we going back here even though it looks kind of unsustainable given how he's gotten these yards?
This has been the thing with Dominique Rhymes all season. Early in the season, I had some success with him because of plays like that. I think you could definitely go back to him, but as I like to say, you are gambling.
Yeah, that's literally what this is.
Yeah, that is exactly. That is a gamble. It's not like Brian Burnham or someone else who is consistently putting up points but may have a low floor. It's like the exact opposite of taking Bo Levi Mitchell.
Yeah, it is.
Another guy I'd like to mention in this game is Tavares Denman, who has been outstanding on special teams all year. He's a relatively high price for a predominantly special teams player, but they are trying to get him involved in the offense, and Jesus Christ, does Ottawa need some sparks on offense. So I wouldn't be shocked to see him line up as a slot a few times, maybe make a few catches, maybe you see him in the reverse game in the same way Brandon Banks should be used. I think he's reasonable, and the Lions' special teams coverage for the majority of the year has not been good, so it wouldn't shock me if they give up a touchdown or something here.
I mean, to counter that, like, he's not really on special teams anymore because they signed Stephon Logan, so I don't know. I'm not saying, yeah. It just kind of takes away the value when he's not returning the kicks, you know? It's like that tiny man back there instead of him. He's so small. I don't know how Stephon Logan made a living playing football for so long at his size. That's impressive.
And was one of the guys to make it to the NFL. It's entirely impressive. Yeah, it's very good.
Yeah, so honestly, I mean, yeah, no, not really on that. But I am on BC's D at 4,300. That's super cheap against Jonathan Jennings. Don't expect them to put up 22 again. Honestly, would be surprised if they put up over 22 combined in the last 5 weeks of the season. But it's cheap, and there's not a ton of, like, there's no real no-brainer defense special teams option on the board this week. So it's a bit. They've really improved since Sean Lemons rejoined the team. Speaking of mistakes Ed Hervey made in the offseason, not re-signing Sean Lemon was a big one. But since he's been back, he's been really pressuring quarterbacks, getting sacks, all that kind of stuff. And even if a D-end isn't getting sacks, he is making it so quarterbacks make bad throws. Yep. Okay, that's it for the game-by-game breakdown, guys. Let's hop into the last 3 segments of the week to close out the show, starting with the Jules versus the McPicks, followed up by the Price is Right and the Lock of the Week to send you off into the weekend. So let's start this week with the
McPicks.
All right, guys. So the McPicks. Oh my God, McPicks this week are Mike Riley, 9,600. I like him as long as he gets protection. I think it's a good play. I have Andrew Harris at running back. I have Devere Posey as my first wide receiver. I have Brian Burnham as my second wide receiver. For my flex, I have Denman. But that could always change. There's a lot of good value guys around that price point. For my other flex, I have Javon Catoy, who had a fantastic week last week. I believe he had like 68 yards, something like 4 receptions, something around there. He had a good week and is continuing to become more and more a part of the offense. And then for defense, I have the Lions D because Jonathan Jennings is the quarterback they're playing against.
You could have just said because Jonathan Jennings.
I should have said because Jonathan Jennings.
A full sentence.
Yeah.
All right, time for the. All right, guys, for the Jules this week, who do we got here? This is very tentative, as is the case most weeks, but this week more than most, because Bo Levi Mitchell's my quarterback. Don't like that. I want to fit Riley in. Couldn't do it before we started the show. Kadeem Carey is my running back. If he is listed as anything but running back 1, that goes down the chute. Brian Burnham, my wide receiver 1. Again, if Beggleton's out, that makes Eric Rogers a must-play. My wide receiver 2 is Josh Huff. I like that value at 42.
Me too.
My 2 flexes is where it's safer. Andrew Harris at 98. Moses Madu at 63. And then I got the Eskimos D at 4,100 because, frankly, that's all I could afford. So let's jump into the Price is Right. All right, Kadeem Carey, come on down if you're starting. So he's got 100 against the worst, against the worst run defense in the league. The way he's been being used in this offense, game script, all that plays into him being a very solid price. Solid point per dollar play at his current price. So keep him in mind. Again, should get that Calgary depth chart Friday. I like these condensed slates, and we got all the games between Friday and Saturday, so we know who's playing before even the first game of the week starts. So we should know that for sure before kickoff at 4. Well, obviously Friday, yeah, because they're playing Friday. But yeah. Who's your Price is Right guy this week?
For me, it's Devere Posey. I think for 7,100, a guy who's getting as many targets as him and has such an ability to kind of like break out and have a crazy game, I think that's a really good price. If I was to do like a value play, Price is Right, I do think Katoy is the guy. Yeah, Deron Carter has not been good this year, and Katoy is getting more targets than him. So I think that does make a difference. And at 4,300, even if he gets 10 points, that's really not bad.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that is good. All right, let's wrap this thing up with the
Lock of the week.
All right, guys, lock of the week this week for me is the Bombers and the Owls to go over 47. Seems like a low total. The Bombers D has been good, but I think that number is just too low for the firepower that the Alouettes offense is bringing and the firepower that the Bombers offense brings to the table too.
I really
like that. As for player, I do like that. Player lock, correlation play, Andrew Harris. He's back. He's going to be contributing. If Reggie Bigleton sits, honestly, my lock of the week becomes Eric Rogers. That's it. That's the tweet. But right now, it's Andrew Harris, so lock him in unless we hear otherwise regarding Reginald Bigleton.
Or if we hear that Harris's testosterone levels have not recovered from his steroid use and perhaps he needs further time.
Yes. He'll need to pump himself back up.
Yes. All right. So, like a balloon. All right. So for me, my gambling lock of the week is the under in the BC versus Ottawa game. I don't think which is 47.5 points is supposed to be the total. I think it'll be well under that. I don't see these teams scoring more than that unless the Lions absolutely rout them, which would be a miracle in itself, and it's not that close to holiday season yet, so I'm not seeing that kind of miracle happen. And for my player, the lock of the week, it is Mike Riley, because if Ottawa's D-line is as bad as it showed last week, he should get some solid protection. And notice how tentatively I say that, because that is a scary thing to say, but I can only look at the previous week.
Yeah, the keyword there is should get solid protection.
Should. So. Yes.
All right. That is it for the 15th episode of the Red, White, and the Rouge podcast. Thank you guys for tuning in. As usual, you know where to reach Rob and myself. You can find our Twitters in the description of wherever you may be listening to this podcast. Feel free to reach out, ask us questions, whatever the case may be. I'll be tweeting out my bets, as has been the case just about every week on Twitter. So keep an eye out for those. And yeah, best of luck this Friday, Saturday to get you set for NFL Sunday. We will talk to you next Tuesday. Bye.
Peace.